Odin walked slowly through the forests of Asgard, his worn leather sandals barely making a sound on the ground covered with dry leaves. Disguised as a simple wanderer, he allowed himself the freedom to reflect on his relentless pursuit of knowledge. The immense trees, with their sturdy trunks and dense canopies, seemed to whisper ancient secrets, and he wondered if any of them had ever been touched by the wisdom he so desperately sought. What is wisdom but the light that illuminates the darkest paths? He mused softly, as if waiting for the very wind to respond. The legends he had heard about Mimir, the guardian of the well of knowledge, echoed in his mind. Mimir, the wise one, who guards the answers to questions we dare not even ask. What must be sacrificed to obtain such power? Odin thought, feeling the weight of his dissatisfaction with the knowledge he possessed. He knew that the quest for more wisdom could lead him to an uncertain fate, but curiosity burned in his heart like an unquenchable flame. On his journey, Odin encountered a group of peasants sitting around a campfire, laughing and sharing stories. He approached, drawn in by their warmth and camaraderie. "Greetings, friends. What news from the lands of Asgard?" he inquired, trying to disguise his true identity. One of the peasants, an old man with graying hair and cautious eyes, replied, "Old wanderer, beware of Mimir. They say many who sought his water went mad. Knowledge can be a blessing, but it can also be a curse." Odin's heart raced at those words. "Do you believe knowledge is dangerous?" he asked, intrigued. The peasant glanced around, as if fearing the trees might hear him. "Yes, many who drank from the well returned changed, carrying burdens they could not bear. There are secrets that should remain hidden." Odin smiled, a smile that concealed both determination and doubt. "Still, I must find Mimir. The thirst for knowledge is an impulse that cannot be ignored." After some warm farewells, he left the group, feeling the fog of doubt begin to envelop his mind. Yet, the call of wisdom was stronger than fear. As he walked away, the vision of a bright future urged him on, even if the path ahead was fraught with unknown mysteries and dangers. After days of travel, the forest began to open up, revealing a trail covered by a thick, mysterious mist. Odin hesitated for a moment, his heart pounding in his chest. The entrance to Mimir's realm lay before him, surrounded by an aura of mystery that felt almost tangible. "This is where wisdom hides," he murmured to himself, feeling tension and anticipation grow within him. The image of the well, with its deep and revealing waters, shone in his mind. He knew that, no matter the cost, he could not turn back. With one last look behind him, Odin took a deep breath and, driven by determination, stepped into the unknown. Odin finally arrived at the Well of Knowledge, a place enveloped in an aura of mystery and reverence. The waters of the well shimmered under the dim light filtering through the treetops, reflecting a deep blue that seemed to promise infinite wisdom. In the center of that sacred setting stood Mimir, an ancient and wise-looking man, with long gray hair and a penetrating gaze that seemed to unveil the universe's most hidden secrets. "Welcome, Odin," Mimir greeted, his enigmatic smile revealing wisdom that transcended time. "I see you have come in search of knowledge." Odin, absorbing the grandeur of the place, replied firmly, "I did not come merely to seek knowledge, Mimir. I came to understand the mysteries surrounding our existence." Mimir nodded, his expression turning serious. "But know, my nephew, that the well does not merely guard wisdom. It also harbors dark secrets that can lead to ruin. Are you prepared for that?" Odin's heart raced. He understood that the pursuit of wisdom often came with challenges not only intellectual, but also emotional. "Yes, I am prepared. What do you propose?" "A challenge," Mimir declared, his voice resonating like an echo. "You must prove your worth before gaining access to the water. Only those who demonstrate determination and cunning may drink from it." With a nod, Odin accepted the challenge. Mimir began to pose riddles, each one more complex than the last, testing not only Odin's intelligence, but also his patience and resilience. "For each wrong answer, you will lose something you value," Mimir said, watching closely. "I am ready," Odin declared, his voice steady. "What is the first riddle?" Mimir smiled, his expression filled with mystery. What is lighter than a feather? But no one can hold it for long. Odin pondered for a moment, his determined spirit unwavering. Its breath, he finally replied, his eyes shining with confidence. Correct, Mimir said, his tone a mix of admiration and respect. But many challenges still lie ahead. Prepare yourself, Odin, for the true test is just beginning. The tension hung in the air as Odin readied himself to face the next riddles, aware that his quest for wisdom was only just starting. He knew that no matter what lay ahead, he would not back down. The thirst for knowledge pulsed within him, stronger than ever. The atmosphere around the well of knowledge throbbed with a mystical energy, and Odin, now without one of his eyes, felt a blend of pain and anticipation. He positioned himself at the edge of the well, where the water shimmered with a golden luminosity, reflecting the light of an invisible sun. With a firm gesture, he tore out his left eye, the pain intensifying with each passing second. Mimir watched with a look that blended approval and sorrow, as if he understood that this act was not just a sacrifice but a transformation. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision that something else is more important than fear, Mimir said, his voice echoing in the silence. Odin gazed into the well, his heart pounding. He cast his eye into the water, which immediately began to stir, as if responding to his offering. The surface of the well gleamed, and a wave of energy coursed through his body, making him feel as though he were about to be consumed by an internal fire. As he leaned down to drink, Odin placed a hand over his heart, feeling the gravity of what he was about to do. "May wisdom guide me," he murmured, before tilting his head and allowing the water to enter his mouth. As soon as the sacred liquid touched his lips, a torrent of visions engulfed him, like a sea of intertwined memories and futures. He saw Thor, his fearless son, battling powerful foes, and Balder, his beloved son, surrounded by shadows of betrayal. "It can't be," Odin whispered, feeling the weight of the revelation settle on his shoulders. The images were vivid but also carried a foreboding sense of calamity. "What awaits me? Wisdom comes with a price," Mimir observed, with a gaze that seemed to penetrate Odin's soul. "You now see what many do not, but the truth can be a heavy burden." Transformed, Odin rose, the new reality weighing on his consciousness. He was the one-eyed, a being who understood the depths of knowledge and its consequences. However, this expanded vision was not merely a blessing. It was a burden that would isolate him in his quest for answers. "I cannot let this consume me," Odin resolved, his voice firm, though uncertainty still lingered in his heart. He turned to Mimir, seeking support. "What must I do now?" "Go, Odin. Use what you have learned, but beware of the shadows that approach. Knowledge can illuminate, but it can also destroy," Mimir replied, his expression grave. Odin nodded, understanding that his journey was just beginning. Odin returned to Asgard shrouded in an aura of mystery, his face marked by the loss of an eye, but also by the depth of newfound knowledge. The streets were vibrant with the life of the Asgardians, who greeted him without knowing the transformation that had occurred within him. He walked through the city, observing every detail with a new perspective, the colors appearing more vivid, the sounds clearer, yet a sense of weight accompanied him. "My lord, what brought you back so soon?" asked one of the sentinels, his gaze curious. Odin hesitated for a moment, the man's voice echoing in his mind. He replied, his voice steady yet melancholic. "Knowledge has a price, and now I carry that burden with every step I take." As the days passed, Odin began to apply his wisdom in decisions that impacted his people. He suggested new crops, better defense strategies, and even alliances with other realms. However, to his surprise, the consequences of his choices were often unpredictable. A new wheat harvest, which he had thought to be a blessing, resulted in a plague that devastated the fields. During a meeting with the leaders of Asgard, one of them raised his voice, anxious. "Odin, your decisions are bringing more problems than solutions. What is happening to you?" The tension in the room was palpable, and Odin felt cornered. I seek what is best for all of us, he responded, his voice trembling. But knowledge is not an easy weapon to control. Meanwhile, rumors began to circulate among the gods about a malignant alliance forming in the shadows, composed of those who feared Odin's growing power. Among them, there was a traitor, someone close to him, who fed off the insecurity and distrust that his decisions generated. Odin has changed, whispered a familiar voice, one that Odin could not identify. He is no longer the same. We must act before it is too late. Tormented by visions of a dark future, Odin struggled to find a balance between his role as a leader and the truths that his visions revealed. He looked up at the sky, where dark clouds were gathering, reflecting his unease. "What have I done?" he murmured to himself, battling the feeling that each choice was pulling him further away from the essence of what it meant to be a god. With each passing day, the weight of knowledge became more unbearable. He needed to discover who the traitor was before his visions turned into reality. Odin sat on an improvised throne, surrounded by gods who looked at him with expressions of expectation and distrust. The hall was steeped in a heavy atmosphere, where the air seemed to vibrate with tension. He took a deep breath, his thoughts still echoing the warnings he had tried to convey. "My friends," Odin began, his voice firm but tinged with concern. "The situation in Asgard is more serious than you can imagine. We are being threatened by those who hide in the shadows." One of the gods, Vidar, crossed his arms, showing skepticism. "And what do you suggest, Odin? That we should fear an invisible enemy? We need proof, not assumptions." Odin's gaze became piercing. He knew he had to be careful. "I do not come here with mere assumptions. I have seen visions, and in them, one of us reveals himself to be a traitor, a close ally who seeks power for himself." Murmurs began to grow among the attendees, each god exchanging nervous glances. "Who is it?" asked Freya, the goddess of fertility, with a worried expression. "Who would be foolish enough to betray Asgard?" Odin hesitated, feeling the weight of what he was about to reveal. "I am not yet sure, but I can sense the betrayal in the shadows, whispering among us." He stood up, observing each face, trying to decipher the thoughts of his companions. The atmosphere of distrust was becoming palpable. As he sat down again, an idea began to form in his mind. He needed to act before the situation became irreversible. "I plan to set a trap," Odin declared with determination. "I will use my visions to foresee the traitor's movements. We must unmask him before he causes any more damage." The gods exchanged glances, but the tension in the room was evident. "And what if you are wrong, Odin?" asked Loki with a sardonic smile. "What if you end up attacking an innocent? I know the risk is great." Odin replied, his voice reflecting the gravity of the situation. "But the wisdom I have gained tells me that we must confront this threat head-on before it is too late." With a plan in mind, Odin felt determination grow within him. He was about to confront not only a traitor, but also the complexities of his newfound wisdom and the consequences of his actions. The challenge ahead would require not just strength, but a deep understanding of what it meant to be the leader of Asgard. The air in the council hall of Asgard was heavy with tension. Odin, now known as the One-Eyed, stood tall with a penetrating and resolute gaze. Around him, the gods murmured, restless. He took a deep breath and, with a firm voice, declared, "My brothers, we can no longer ignore the treachery that lingers among us. The shadow of ambition and envy has settled in Asgard, and we must face it." The gazes turned to the traitor, who was leaning against a corner, guilt written all over his face. "Don't believe his words, Odin," he exclaimed, trying to defend himself. "I have always stood by your side." But Odin's voice echoed above his desperate attempts to deflect the truth. "You were my friend, but ambition often blinds even the most loyal. It is time for you to face reality." The traitor, a god whom Odin had known for ages, was now surrounded by the weight of his own actions. "You don't know what you're doing," he shouted, but Odin, with a swift gesture, silenced everyone. "I know very well, and that is why I will show you the dark future that your betrayal could unleash upon us all." Odin closed his eyes, and in an instant, Visions began to flow through his mind. He saw Asgard in flames, its inhabitants in despair, and the traitor at the center of it all, consumed by guilt. Opening his eyes, he faced the man. See what your actions could trigger. You have not only betrayed me, but all of our house. The traitor's demeanor changed. Fury and denial gave way to the horrifying realization that his selfish acts could lead to everyone's ruin. Please, Odin, his voice now sounded like a lament. I didn't know this would happen. Forgive me. With a gesture of compassion, Odin said, forgiveness is not an easy gift, but it is necessary. True knowledge comes with responsibility, and at this moment, you must learn to share that wisdom with others. Together, we will rebuild what has been broken. The gods around them watched in astonishment as Odin, with his newfound vision and understanding, not only saved Asgard, but also offered a second chance to the traitor. The hall, once filled with distrust, now pulsed with a new energy. Odin had become not only a wise god, but also a just leader, transforming his pain into a powerful lesson for all.